Kodiak Cadillac. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
We're back for another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. Today, we are here to talk about the newest Chevrolet Silverado commercial that just dropped, like only minutes before this podcast. Just came out online. Head over to Twitter. It'll probably be on Instagram too. Our good friend of the pod, Mads, just shared this wonderful pickup truck commercial using Big Modern, and it's the greatest thing ever.
Guest appearance, I guess.
If you watched yesterday's Day After Show, he was working hard in the meme factory, actually creating that commercial in the background of this podcast.
He knew it was coming to last night too, and just was like getting it ready, fresh off the press.
Easy on the eyes, but built real tough. Well, we're back today to talk, of course, about Chicago Night 3, an absolutely amazing show last night, and we've got a special guest joining us. As always, we've got Josh Terry. I don't know why I said it like that. We've got Josh Terry in the house. Hi, Josh.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Thanks for
Josh.
having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, Josh. Very exciting for you. You saw your first 3 shows this week at Salt Shed, and I know you said, like a couple of weeks ago when I asked if you wanted to be on the pod, you were like, I don't know if I'm going to go on Friday.
Yeah.
But you're sold, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. It was such a fun 3 nights. Goose has just been one of those bands that I've had many opportunities over the years to get into them, and I really haven't until this year. Some background about me. I've been a music journalist in Chicago for the last 12 years. I'm like mostly an indie rock guy. And so like the jam world was always something that was like around, but I never really dove in. So I worked for Vice for 4 years, and
nice.
And I worked for like the Chicago Tribune and AV Club and a bunch of places. And it was always like I would be writing music news, and I would kind of like fake my way through like Fishes announcing a record and like but like my jam thing just really started happening in the last like year and a half. My friend Brian Anderson, who I think 2 of you guys met last night. I was at the IO Theater with him. We used to work together at Vice. He lives in Chicago now, and he's writing a book on the Wall of Sound. And so we would like hang out. And I think just through osmosis, he started getting me into the Grateful Dead. And I kind of just went so deep into it. I went to the Sphere on opening weekend. I listened to like every Dick's Picks, every Dave's Picks, and I had already liked bands like King Gizzard, which I always just kind of assumed was just an indie rock band with like a jam band kind of business model. But like, it was sort of like, I run a music newsletter where I kind of like, I don't know, we're all writers here, so we like to give ourselves homework. So I wrote like 5,000 words on the Grateful Dead. I ranked all King Gizzard's records.
I read that piece. It was really good.
Thank you.
You guys should check that out. I'll find it and share it later from the pod account, but it's a really cool article.
So with Goose,
and then now you get to write about Goose.
Yeah, exactly. But like with Goose, it was always sort of like I had friends who were into this music, and they were sort of like, nah, they're okay. They wouldn't have the same like enthusiasm that they would for like Fish or Panic or anything like that.
They get a bad rap in the scene too.
I know, but they're like two. It's really funny. Like, and so it was always sort of something where I was like, oh, I'll take my friend's word for it. It's not going to be for me. And I keep thinking back to like 5 years ago, because there are like 2 opportunities for me to see Goose that I just didn't take anyone up on.
Was that like Lincoln Hall?
It was Lincoln Hall the second time, and then the first one was Cubby Bear, believe it or not.
Wow.
It was like, I think it was like it was like winter. I think it was like January
2019. Yeah.
It wasn't 20. But I was like drinking at this bar called the G-Man Tavern, which is
it's a great spot.
It's my favorite. I'm a regular there for years. And this guy was sort of like, hey man, I'm going to the Cubby Bear to see this band. Do you want to come? And I was like, no. Like, what is this? What is this, the 80s? Like, no, what kind of music are they having at Cubby Bear nowadays? And then it was like my friend who worked at Lincoln Hall was like, I'm going to put you on the list for Goose. And I was like, wait, how long do they play? And I just go.
Nope.
But yeah, so yeah, my journey, it took me a long time. In 2021, I profiled the band Geese. And like my editor was like, yo, we don't really write about jam band's advice. And I was like, this is the indie rap
This is
band.
not the one. Yeah,
Yeah, this is the rock band.
So they've kind of just been in my orbit. And then I kind of like checked out the 2021 cover because I like Vampire Weekend and listened to the internet radio show Time Crisis, which is awesome. And they talk about that band a lot.
Neil is an avid Time Crisis listener.
But yeah, my first kind of thing, it's a similar situation to this weekend. My girlfriend was out of town. I came home and I was sort of like, I saw on Twitter, because if you like one tweet about a jam band, your whole feed is just going to be entirely jam bands for the rest of your life.
Your algorithm has been set.
We apologize.
So it's okay. Yeah, I feel like I know you guys, but I met you on Wednesday. But the summer camp, the show from I think May came up. And I was like, you know what? Might as well just give it a try. And I thought it was really, really cool. And so as someone, like I said, who gives himself homework, I was like, all right, I'm going to start from the beginning, see kind of how, not the beginning, because they've been a band for a long time, but I started at the Octave shows from 2018.
Nice.
There's no soundboard of the Cubby Bear show that I missed out, so I have no idea what that was like. I listened to Lincoln Hall.
There's a Wisteria Shama from that show. I just looked at the list.
Very cool.
Nice.
But so I kind of did like the top 5, top 10 shows of each year to kind of just like prep myself. I like, one of the things that's much easier with indie rock is that I like to have like set list fluency when I go to like a show.
Okay, yeah.
I like to like know the songs, they're
playing a lot of new material right now, so that was even tougher for you.
No, it was I think I was batting 1,000
nice
this weekend. Because once like I got caught up, I was sort of like, might as well just listen to most shows from 2024. And, with the Cotter stuff, it's easy. You got like 2 or 3 options, and then but yeah, it was really, really fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the show here a little bit last night, because it was a blast. And I ended up going back to the same place I was on Thursday night, like third row, right in front of Trevor. Shout out to Dylan and Blair for holding down the spot.
Louisville peeps.
Yeah.
Tavis. Yep. Saw Tavis last night.
But
more of the same with the weather, of course.
We absolutely perfect weather all 3 nights.
I mean, Josh, right? Just got so lucky throughout the week.
I mean, Salt Shed is the best venue in America. It's only been open for a couple years.
Ooh, all right.
I like it. Yeah, we do like it.
It's so much fun. And it's definitely like just a perfect outdoor, indoor. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Same here for us. We got a big crew, front of soundboard, kind of gathered the multiple crews from the first 2 nights and coalesced it all. Yeah. With, Adam, Jive One, and Steph, and Hector, as well as we know him as Jesse and Brittany, and other pod mates or friends of the pod. Had
Fierce critics of the pod.
Fierce critics were around us.
True.
It was great. It was really, really nice. I think, and everyone was sort of just a couple more people. I felt like too, even Ryan, right? I felt it was a little thicker last night, even versus Thursday. Just another couple hundred, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely felt like there was less dancing room up front last night than there was on Thursday, for sure. Crowd was a little rowdier. I felt, Friday night crowd.
Agreed.
But it was going in. It's like, the vibes were incredibly high. Like, everyone, after the first 2 nights and how good the shows have been, like, it's, we know they're going to play a 6 show. And everyone's just really excited about it. No, but
it's a good problem to have.
I wasn't going into last night. Like, me, I get worried about what they're going to play and whether it's going to be a good show. I wasn't really worried going into last night.
No, we had a lot of options, as we saw too, with the way that they were able to write. I got an egg, first egg of an in attendance show I've ever had. So that was an accomplishment. I know. He was like, "Whoa, how did you do that?" I agree.
How did you not have the 8-point hot love, Danny?
I know.
I knew Hot Love was coming.
if you've seen Josh, sorry, we're
Almost
talking
everybody.
about Fantasy Goose. If you've seen some chatter around that,
I have yet to participate. I've only the closest I've ever dived in was just DMing you my pick 5 each night.
There you go.
You know,
you should play. You can play. This tour is going to be a long continuation, but because of all your homework, maybe you pick up in 2025 also, and kind of as you start to learn the sets. It's fun. We just razz each other.
I called the night 2 Factory Fiction, which I was really
that's impressive. That
was because we all thought that was night 3.
Easy one.
I also had this kind of conspiracy theory that there would be another Father John Misty sit-in, because
I would have loved that.
He was at he had been at Rosemont.
In Allstate Arena, and he had 3 days off before the Casey Musgraves tour, which he's opening for, is going to Fiddler's Green. So I was like,
Casey Musgraves is sick.
And that didn't pan out, but
there was no Father John Misty sighting.
I got the Hot Love, and then the third song was Born. I was like, hey, I already got 2. It's gonna be
that a guy. Let's go.
Nothing else. They played nothing else from my list.
There we go. Well, can't win them all, as you know. I came within shouting distance of Golden Goose again last night due to some clerical errors on the entry part of fantasygoose.com, which happens.
Well, how about the start here?
Neil's gaining on me, but anyway, let's talk about the show.
I mean, great, these first as good as it gets. Classic opener.
Classic as a song that was debuted in April can be, but Hot Love is the opener. You know, we saw it.
Yeah, it's the 2024 opener.
Back. You know, it closed the first set in Boston, but we're back.
We're back. It's opening. We're back. Just it feels like every show in 2024. Almost every show.
Yeah. Every run, every stop is getting the Hot Love. Every 3 to 4 to 5 shows. Max.
I mean, it's a great tune. It was like the first song that I was like, oh, right on. Because I told you the first full show I ever listened to was Soulshine Revelry from earlier this year.
Nice. Man.
Played Hot Love. And I was like, damn, like this sounds really good. I'm like, wait, it's like 10 years old, but they've never played it before. It was very cool. It was like one of those
2011 even,
you know, like I had my like music critic brain going. I'm like, is he saying don't groove in the middle of my Love Connection? I was like, it was a little cringed out a little bit. And then the next morning I was like humming it, and it was sort of like, okay,
like here we go.
Something here.
Well, that's one of the ones that, I mean, the melody and the hook is just so good, and it will get stuck in your head.
It is the earworm.
Like that. I mean, I've been singing Draconian Meter Maid over and over and over again since Thursday. I don't think that song is ever leaving my brain ever again. But it's there now. And one of the things, so they go into One In, One Out here, and I was looking at the set list, about an hour ago, just like, after it came out on Nugs, I was like glancing at it, and I realized the only songs, obviously excluding covers, the only original songs debuted before 2022 that they played last night were Arcadia. And Satellite.
Yeah, and Satellite.
Everything else was debuted in 2022 or later. And so obviously at this point,
that's cool.
Something like Born isn't a new song, or Atlas Dogs or Silver Rising, but like, they still feel like newer, if that makes sense, to fans like us who've, been following the band for a few years. But it's interesting to see how, like, and
it worked perfect.
Yeah. The show is so
like
heavy on more recent material.
Yeah.
But speaking of recent material, One In, One Out, second play. Sounding
Loved
great.
it.
Neil,
I like that song. What do you think, Neil?
Quiet.
I mean, it's maybe the best new one that they've got right now. I don't know. It still feels a little bit
I like
raw.
the lyrics a ton.
Yeah. This one was much better than the last time they played it. Like that one felt super raw. And I think it was saying this on the day after the last one. Peter songs just show up a little bit raw, and they kind of take form on stage. Whereas like, I think Rick songs just kind of show up like fully baked, if that makes sense. But
and even when
I like
not,
this one,
it's like,
I don't know how it works out that way, but that's
true. You think about like Whales, like when those were coming back, or Butterflies the first time, like it's still a song that sounded like this needed whereas like Turbulence, same night, was like ready, right? I know it's an older song again
Thatch,
too, but
or like Thatch felt like, from the get-go, just like really well fleshed out. They were like, yeah, we just wrote that a couple hours ago. But
yeah, like
I don't
Yeah.
understand how that works. But
It did sound clean though last night.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is sort of a newer fan is just kind of, and also doing that speed run is just I have such a great appreciation for Peter, like as a player and as a songwriter, and it's been really
you've
funny.
probably heard his growth.
I mean, it was
Right,
speed running it, you know, it was
Yeah.
like this. I started in May, and so it was like from Octave to Peach Fest to this. It's
Right.
an
Yeah,
unbelievable glow
you've
up.
heard it, yeah.
And it's an unbelievable glow up since like December of 2023. Like even this run, he just
This
gets
year he's
better
gotten,
and
yeah.
better. Yeah. But it's been really funny because, you know, first night I went with my girlfriend, also her first Goose show. I brought a friend,
Awesome.
their first Goose show, and I brought two friends last night, their first Goose shows. And it's funny, I ran into people, I know a lot of people who work at the venue, and one of the bartender friends of mine, she was like, I love the keyboardist songs the best because they're like
Nice.
super sight rocky. And I'm like, that's so cool because like I don't think that's the like popular take among the Goose community, but it's so cool to see like people who are like my indie rock friends be like, this guy rocks.
Yeah.
He makes good songs, and I think it did. And this one had a little bit more space too in the middle, right? Like it just felt like you said, Neil, a little more comfortable. The lyrical play, they kind of got into the little jam section, and Rick really nice, you know, soaring but contained melody and lines. Like he was just, I felt like it was a good sort of kept the energy going really well too.
Sure.
From Hot Love, and it felt like a good one too. And then we get to open it up again, because we talked, Josh, like sometimes you get a show where they open the first set with almost 3, usually sometimes 4 opening style songs. So it's just kind of like singing. There's not much exploration. There's not much, but this one felt like it was just going to open up to more space through the night, which was good. And I did that very well on the Born.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of opening up, we get a big Born coming out next year. John Chuli in the chat said, thought Born was as good as it gets for its length. Love the Eugene-esque space at the end. Sorry, Neil, that you now don't like last night's Born.
Well, no, you know, I think I tweeted something like that when this was happening.
You did, yeah. Dark Born over Eugene Born.
Because it sounded just like Eugene Born. Peter was doing the same kind of synth swells that he does in the Eugene.
That's actually
Born.
Rick.
That's Rick doing that?
Yeah,
so, yeah. It's like clouds of like reverse delay loops.
Yeah,
it's so cool. He was doing it again. I think it popped up again in the drip. But
yeah,
I love when he's just like down there fiddling with the pedals and it's going like.
Yeah, it's like
live action
aliens,
of like me
like
having my
ships.
mind blown right now. I had no idea that was him. Like
really
in Eugene Born or this.
Yeah.
That's insane. That stuff is really cool. So he's doing that, and I was like, oh, this is they're going right down the Eugene Born road, which is just like, you know, good. And then it got like, I mean, it was insane. It was some of the this show actually had a couple pieces of like really, really incredible improvisation, like sophisticated improvisation. And this
newer styling and sounding too, which was good.
Yeah,
like
for
sure.
Like, yeah. So like this one, like it just for a moment was so good and so dark and evil, but like still like super psychedelic. I mean, it was great. And then they just walked away from
it. Then they stopped.
Yeah.
I like watch
such a bummer.
You know, it's happening, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, this is so good. Like, and then I watch, like, you know, everybody's still like deep in the thing. Rick like stands up from fiddling,
starts
around.
strumming it.
No. He like hikes up his pants and like turns around to the talkback mic, and I'm like, no,
let's just go Silver. I thought that the major, or like the more peaky jam too was pretty solid, a little fleshed out, a little longer there too. Yeah, like you said, kind of got like the dark, and then we hit that space, and you know, we do talk about this if you're getting to minute 17 and you're like, where's this dark crazy space they're talking about? And then it just like the last 2 minutes
out of nowhere.
And we said we were able to catch up with Rick. I know, Ryan, as you like, but hearing about that and saying, you know, those focused sections, you know, the end of Born, the end of Drip, the sections in Thatch we talked about last night, you know, yesterday with him too. And it's just like, it's awesome. We wanted to see new improvisational styling, and yeah.
100%. And they've been leaning into, the major key stuff a lot lately. So it was, felt especially fresh to hear this little section of Evil there. Josh, what were your thoughts on this, Born?
Oh man, it was excellent. I definitely agree. I do think that, the delay pedal stuff is so sick, and the, kind of darker exploration towards the end is something that I would love to see more, because, I think the Bliss stuff is so cool and it works on me every single time.
100%.
But it's just like, and it's also like, I don't know. I tend to prefer, like, I think the sit-in from Thursday night is like a perfect example of how you can kind of get a little weirder, get a little jazzier, get a little, I don't know, the way the Julian and Rick were kind of playing off of each other was just so awesome. And was, I texted you after the show. I'm like, I wish Goose were a Telecaster band. Like, it's, I want to hear,
Telecaster.
I want to hear like a little twang. I want to hear a little, just a little kind of naughty.
It's just that sharp, his, and it balanced so well. But I agree. Yeah, what you said.
I felt really bad during Born. So my friend is another indie rock guy, and well, I was like, all right, man, we'll meet you at the show, and he's like, cool. What time do they get on? And I'm like, 6:40, most likely. And he was like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? And so he was 20, 30 minutes late. And then his favorite song is Born.
Oh,
no. They were like just getting into that like kind of darker section. He's like, did they play Born yet? I'm just walking in. I'm like, they're still playing it, man. I'm sorry. And it was like his first Goose show. It's like the song that he wanted to hear. And I was like, whatever.
Brutal.
His fault though. Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah.
But I love that we got a lot of drip field. I think that it's just those first,
and without the hunger too, which we could have, surprising over the 3 nights.
Listen, they did the hunger salt last year. They weren't.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
And we so the one thing too, which I'm not sure if anybody re-listened back, and we caught it live during like the middle, but because Rick had been going crazy with his pedals, he had something that basically stuck throughout Silver Rising.
It was, it was like the click. I think
it was.
There was
it sounded like a wood block, kind of, basically. So it would be like trunk, trunk.
But it was also like, it kind of showed up as they started Silver Rising. But kudos to the band for playing through it, because it was not.
They just kept going. Yep.
Either. Like, it wasn't the speed click for Silver Rising. Like, it was like off, and like you could see they were all looking at each other, and the techs come on stage. Peter took a nice little extended piano.
Yeah, there was a little longer solo. Yep.
But
yeah, it's been really funny. This being my first 3, and it's like, I've watched a few live streams and listened on Nugs and Apple Music or whatever. But it's like being in the moment, you kind of notice the technical difficulties, the lyrical flubs a little bit more than you would just kind of having it on while
you're listening. Exactly. Yeah, you might not know what they were doing, or sort of.
Yeah.
I don't think you pick up the crowd cheering, because when the text came out and they stopped it, everyone was like, last night was like, woo! Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was.
And then they ripped the solo again.
It worked. Yeah. It worked. I mean, I felt bad. It was just like I was nervous for them, but they found it. And
and we get into Atlas Dogs next. Silver Rising, Atlas Dogs. Know how it ends. Where is how it ends? We don't know. But Zalt
the
is
dog's Fecta.
So where's how it ends? Yeah, the dog tick, if you will.
Yeah, the dog tick.
But yeah, we're waiting for that how it ends. We need it to come back.
I thought too, like, so the Atlas Dogs, personally we had
with Jam.
Yep.
With Jam.
And it was a unique one, different. Like I was texting you guys right before, and it's sort of like it's like this like very floaty, choppy, just rhythmic sort of grooving jam space that they find and sit in, which was nice to see, and sort of reminded me, Ryan, like the Wisteria on Wednesday, where we sort of were like, when it just held on a little longer, and I was like, because those moments for me are in the past, they've maybe run into sort of a corridor and not really been able to get anywhere out of it. I thought they were setting up how it ends too, like the way that sort of like jam was like playing out. It was great. And we got a great song. Yeah, alas, we didn't get it, but we got a Terracotta Rooftop instead. So
yeah,
but I like,
bang, bang,
like if you look at how this set is playing out too, it makes me wonder if this is going to get released, because it feels
I think
like,
so too. I thought so too.
I mean,
the way that
the 3-show run is just like bangers, like they've somehow threaded together really like nicely curated set lists. They're almost like too perfect. And this one is just, I mean, it's got it all in the first.
This was the cap.
Couple neat jams. It's got Hot Love. You got to have that. And then like Born Silver Rising, Atlas Dogs, like songy, but like still kind of shows a little bit of improv here and there, which is pretty nice. And then you get like a big jammer at the end with this big modern
turtle in the fast lane.
And this is a very approachable show too. I think like for a modern,
your average American guy who owns a pickup truck
is going to love that,
or is interested in
set closing banger.
A pickup truck.
But maybe for you too, for you, Josh, right? You said some of your friends are introducing them, like those three that, I mean, and you add one in too. Actually, I feel before it's kind of got, those have all like strong indie leanings. One in Born. I know Born's a very like approachable song as itself. Silver Rising, Atlas Dogs. I mean, and you get the indie groove, right? So it's sort of, what did you, what did your friends think of any of their song construction?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think with my indie rock friends, they kind of lean closer to just the Dripfield songs. I think it's like it's Hunger Site is just kind of it's like a My Morning Jacket song. It would be on alt rock radio, and it has been. I think with a band like Goose, the way I've always kind of pitched them to my friends is sort of like, you like the Dead because they synthesize all these old traditions of American music. Fish did what the Dead did with like prog and funk and classic rock. Goose they're basically doing that, but with Radiohead, Bon Iver, and maybe some Dave Matthews Band like stuff that like me and my friends grew up.
We said that,
and it's like and it's kind of I think Goose are kind of the easiest band that's not the Dead for people to get into in this kind of world. Like Rick's voice is really good.
Really good.
It's so funny because like listening to those old shows, you could see the growth in 100%. His voice. Like he's put in so much work. So
Peter
it's funny,
too.
like
Crazy.
Peter as well. I mean, and it's really commendable. And it's funny, like when I first heard them, I was like, oh, this guy's voice isn't that good. Like in like 2019.
Right.
Yeah,
now
it's not for me.
Yeah.
And then like when I first like tried him again, I was like, this guy's voice is too good. What's going on here?
He's taking lessons.
See how that works.
Yeah, it's really funny. They can't. This band really can't win critics. But no, it's really. I think it's just kind of. It's comfort music for me. It feels like stuff that I grew up on. It feels fresh and exciting, and there's a little. I kind of want them to go into like a more indie rock territory. Like the Inside Out cover was
Ryan's wrong.
I just like jams. I like
completely wrong. So like Josh, like, go ahead.
Inside Out sick.
Well, so Josh mentions Inside Out. Josh, you know that Neil's favorite band is Spoon?
Yeah, it's not true.
Oh.
But no, it's a running gag on the podcast.
Okay,
but like you,
they've done some sick Inside Outs.
Yeah, I would have considered myself an indie rock guy, not a jam bands guy. When I started getting into this music, I was like really into Fish when I was much younger. Then started to be again, and then found this band. But in between, nothing but indie rock. And I agree 100% with the things that you're saying about just this music really kind of brought like jam music, which I really, really love, Fish and the Grateful Dead growing up, my parents are Deadheads and things like that. But this other like style of music being kind of infused into jam music, I don't know. It's just really always had me excited. That's why I love this band.
Yeah, absolutely. It's undeniable. It's also like the guys just seem really nice, and the way they're so friendly to their fans, the way they kind of approach everything with like the listener and the community that has developed over the last 5 years is really, really cool. Yeah, they just seem like guys I grew up with, It's like the high school band.
They're just buddies.
Yeah. It's really good. Let's talk about this big modern
let's do it
before we go into set break here. There's a lot to unpack here. You got a rickshaw, you got a monologue.
Song is sick.
Money on the Southpaw.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
I
got
did pull up the lyrics to.
it's got
quote
the
that because I don't know
the
them.
leanings. So Josh, and I'd be curious, like when I heard that, so I'd heard the song, right, but seeing it live. So you're like, it's a newer song, like bringing in the elements of country that a lot of people are going to, of course,
And the
whatever
heavy
it is,
metal stuff.
pop. Yeah. And then sort of like the Giz section too, that I know they're fans of King Gizzard. You know, Peter loves them and they've seen him and gotten green rooms, you know, and stuff. So but that's a silly joke if you haven't seen that one yet. But it's a great song, I thought, right? Because it's sort of it's got a little like ADD vibe. You're kind of like and then you just start like shredding.
I'm just waiting
The
for
jam was
when they
great.
play it next, which will hopefully probably be in Montana. Mosh pit. We need to do a mosh pit.
You don't understand what a mosh pit is. You don't know what a mosh pit is.
I saw King Gizzard.
I've seen
that. No,
I've
that's
seen
not.
it.
Yeah,
I've seen some videos.
Well, anyway, we should do some style of mosh pit during Big Modern the next time they play it.
Maybe when
I
Neil's in Cincinnati with us too, Ryan.
Next time I see it with you, Neil, I might just jump on you.
I want to take you to a metal show so bad now. Like,
sorry, Josh, what were you gonna say?
Josh, what do you think?
I think out of the news, I like Give It Time, but I think Big Modern might be my favorite of the brand new songs. Yeah, it's got like kind of this Dire Straits kind of feel a little bit. It's got like this, I don't know. Some of it is goofy, but I like. There's been a thing where it's like some of the songs that took me a while to warm up with Goose were like Yeti and Butter Rum. I was like, this is kind of too goofy for me.
Some you never really warm up to. Like
but it's sort of like, and that's sort of like, even though I do like Fish, I'm not as the light switch hasn't turned on where I'm like, I'm going to devote my life to Fish, you know? And I think it's the goofiness in Fish that kind of like brings me back. I think there's like a lot more emotional grounding in Rick's songwriting. You know, it's sort of, it's kind of all catharsis, you know, which I think is really cool. But this one is like, it kind of gets goofy and it works. It's kind of, you know, you can imagine them all wearing cowboy hats and stomping around playing this jam. Like, it's cool.
Driving a pickup.
A music video for this.
Yeah. If you were not here at the beginning when we talked about it, go on Twitter after this podcast, go to Mads Hooven and watch the Chevy Silverado commercial that he posted because it is a work of art. I haven't even seen the whole video yet.
Features our own Danny Rosewoods.
It does
as well.
It does. He's there.
It's funny that people get country vibes from this because when I listen to the song, I just I hear like CCR, and like Subterranean Homesick Blues somehow mashed up together, and then Huey Lewis in the chorus. Like that's Garrett.
It's like a little
pull all that together.
Oh, Garrett said that. I like that.
Yeah, he's like so right too. It's like a little Huey Lewis in the chorus.
It's the country stuff is in like Rick's delivery in the verses. You know, he's kind of
right.
Mustang Bangarang. I like that.
I can't wait for it though. And like we said, this is another one. So is this 3?
This is the third Big Modern. Yeah.
Third. And it immediately has stamped itself, right? They're hitting 20 minutes right away on it. And it's just going to be like, but what was the first one? 26 or
36.
36.
36. There you go. Thank you. Yes, 36. And then the next one was up there again, right?
18.
Yeah. So
it's a jammer.
It's just it is. Yeah. And I think it's a cool song because of its difference, not only in the lyrics, like you said, Josh, that was a great point too. It's contrasts very strongly with a lot of his other new work, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
But it does give some unique spaces for their jamming styles too, like a little harder, a little more sort of like rockin'. It was good. I think, and the crowd loved it too.
Does the variety of the new songs, because like really every song is different.
Yeah.
You know?
Does that make you
worried? Does that make you worried about a new record? Like, how is it going to cohesive? Like,
no, because I think if you threw the songs that they've debuted, like even it would be an EP because it's 4 songs. But I think if you were just like, hey, here's a new Goose EP with Draconian Meter Maid, My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media, Big Modern, and One In, One Out. Like it's all over the place, but it's like they're all great songs.
They are.
Yeah.
And we think there's word that, they're and we've heard, obviously, they've been working on records again. So it's
we know they're working
Yeah.
on it. Rick has
Yeah.
a concept of an album.
Yeah.
Neil, what were you gonna say?
No, it's like actually reminded me of that. So like I feel like they're just recording. It's pretty clear at this point that they are very good friends with D. James Goodwin. If you listen to his most recent interview on another podcast, he kind of talks about how they've Peter and Rick have become like his best friends.
Nice.
Which is really interesting. But they're going to be like Gizzard at some point. Like they've just like built up like a dozen albums, and then it's just going to be like a new Goose album every week. I swear to God.
I would love it.
Wow.
But like I don't see them recording any Swimmer stuff. Like I don't think that's ever
No,
gonna
that's
happen.
fair.
So like
Yeah.
Meter Maid's never gonna
Meter Maid,
see the
yeah.
light of day as like a Goose, release.
Yeah, or my
Never say
mind.
never.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
mind or something. Even though they said Goose, how did they term it that made it seem like it was like
It was just the first time, like it was just maybe
first
their
time played or
like,
debut,
not-
but they didn't say like Goose debut or something, which was
Right,
unique
exactly,
because
exactly.
because we said it was a Swimmer track. So
Well,
yeah,
that
I think
was-
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not too familiar with Swimmer. Was
neither
this?
are we.
Yeah. So was Cotter like the kind of Levon Helm of that band, drummer, singer? Or is
Yes,
this, like-
and he also had a cover band called Cotter and the Hawks. where
Oh,
he
cool.
was the Levon. So
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
he's
nice.
got the look.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny.
and the sound.
I'm friends with a lot of indie rock people in Burlington, Vermont, and it's so
Oh,
funny.
nice.
Like when he got hired, they're like, "That guy, the guy who goes next all the time." It's like
the guy playing the big cover bands and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't really talk to any of the members, but Cotter walked by at IO, and I was like, "Shout out Burlington, man!" And he was like, "Yeah." And then
Yeah.
that was the
we
extent
connected
of
on
my-
it too.
Love
That
it.
was the extent of my interactions with members of Goose last night.
Well, let's move into set break here. Another nice little quick one. I guess this one was a little longer. It was closer to 30 minutes. But I think thought
They
Drip
were
was
giving us
coming.
more time to see our friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And we saw you. You ran back yesterday, right? That's right. I saw you.
Yeah,
then.
I came back. I think I jumped on you.
Yes.
At set break. That just
Yeah.
happened. But
With
yeah, so
excitement, vibes were still high. Flying.
vibes were very high.
Yeah.
But I'm still not a vibes guy. But yeah, getting ready for set 2. Again, just like not really a ton of expectations for me. I was just like, it's
No.
going to be awesome. There's probably going to be at least one really great jam. But like at this point in the tour, we'll see obviously what happens tonight. But at this point in the tour, like I have a lot of trust in the band and the way that they've been structuring shows and set lists. Like, with each passing show, like I was so stressed going into the tour and for the first couple of shows, like about the curfew and the time management and like, are we going to be getting, a series of 50-minute sets? Are they going to be going on 40 minutes after ticket time? But things are clicking. And like, I just feel so much less stressed when a Goose show is about to start, which is awesome because I stress myself out a lot.
Yeah.
No.
As you guys know very
I
well.
was gonna say that's unique to you. That is
Yes,
your Goose
that is a me
experience
thing.
and no one else's. But
And I love it.
Like I understand
But
the
yeah.
nerves though.
No, I know what you're saying though, Ryan. It was like it just felt, yeah. We're
Feels
gonna get a good cover. We got 2 great covers. Obviously, there was but still newness. Like I think that was probably the theme of the theme.
Yeah.
And
There you
and why not? I mean, they dusted off Zalt.
Whoa, we'll
Sli-
get there. I want to hear Josh's set break report.
Oh, his set
yeah.
break. All right.
I went to the bathroom. I got a beer.
Lovely.
Saw some friends. It was a great
you were ready.
best set break of the 3-night run.
Nice.
There we
go. But no, I wanted to talk about the nerves thing because as someone who's never seen this band until this week, I kind of came into it with the mindset of like, okay, I hope they played these 4 songs, and then like first night, first set, I kind of stopped caring. You know what I mean? I was sort of like, I'm just in for the ride. Like, it really doesn't matter what songs they play. Like, the show is going to be a spectacle and a production and a really impressive display of musicianship. So the 4 songs I wanted to hear, I got them both. I got 2 of them night 1, and then the other 2 were not played, unfortunately. but I wanted Echo of a Rose, Dawn, SOS Dawn, and
SOS, yeah.
and then I wanted a 726 and Hunger Sight.
Well, good. You got to have things to chase. You
Yeah,
can't get
exactly.
everything
Yeah, exactly. Maybe make you leave the state one time.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the second set here. We get the Zalt Shed. It's back in rotation. Thank God.
You saw that one coming.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, but also
I didn't, because they had just played it,
and they played in St. Louis,
and they
didn't play it. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
And then the fact that they had just played it and kind of dusted it off, and I was like, oh, we're actually not going to get it in Chicago. Yeah.
But so
which
we
was a bummer.
And state of the art. Thought of you, Neil, to kick off the second set. Josh, what did you think of these first two tunes?
Salt is really cool. It's kind of I knew it was coming just because it's obvious. Salt of the Salt Shed, but yeah, no, it was a really good way to kick it off. As of My Morning Jacket guy, it was great to see the Jim James cover immediately after. Like,
he crushes it.
It's funny. I tend to enjoy most of the covers. Like the David Gray from earlier in the week was amazing. My favorite is the Fish in the Sea cover. I think that's
nice. Yeah, everybody loves that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I'm learning. I'm not gonna have you.
Everybody loves that because it's amazing.
When we heard that debut, I mean at Bingo Tour when they debuted that, it was I was floored by it.
Yeah. The Bingo Tour show is it's such a cool version. With these covers, I just they're all really good. There are a couple that I don't like, but the Jim James one is awesome.
Yeah. It was amazing, and happy to see this pop up again so soon. They didn't play it for over 120 shows before it came back in Portland.
And then Portland, yep.
Yeah, and so really, really excited to see this pop up again. After a much shorter gap. Hopefully that means it'll be in more regular rotation because, as Neil, you like to say, this is probably Goose's best cover.
In my opinion. I mean, this is one of the ones that solidified it for me with this band when they covered it way back in South Farms, 9/17/20. Yep. And I was just like, oh my God, like these guys are incredible.
Was that the debut of that too?
Yeah, so that was but like, the funny thing about jam bands in general, to swell around this thread, is that historically their covers aren't true to the original. They're just kind of like an approximation of like what they think or an interpretation of like a song. But like Goose can just go out and nail one, right? And this is a perfect example. And like trying to sing Jim James, ballsy, really ballsy, and Rick does it incredibly well. And it's just, I've said it before on this pod, like people pay really good money just to hear somebody go out and do like an incredible version of a song like AIOU, right? No jams, just like really crisp, amazing delivery.
Haunting too. Yeah, it's just
and like they just do this one so good. It's one of my favorites, and I just saw it for the first time when they played it in Portland, and awesome that
you can hear them on the soundboard.
I just lost my mind.
Yeah, something that's one of the kind of the more admirable qualities about the band, and something that is like kind of hard not to be charmed by, is like how infectious and genuine their love for all kinds of music is. Like they'll play a Jim James cover, they'll do a Foster the People cover, they'll do a Kylie Minogue cover with the same amount of like seriousness and love for the music. And I think that's like, it makes for a really fun show. It doesn't feel like, like I come from the like arms crossed at the 250 show at the Empty Bottle. Everyone's kind of like talking shit, but it's like it feels so inclusive and welcoming, and everyone's so nice. And it's it's not a place for pretension and elitism.
Sure, for sure. Let's continue on here. Finally, we've been waiting. We've been talking about it a lot recently, but the mid-set Dripfield is here. It had room to jam, and what a jam! But this is the first version of Dripfield that hasn't been like a set closer or kind of running up a little bit close against curfew since last year. So the first version of 2024 that like, as soon as it started, I haven't checked to hear if you can hear me freak out. But I was very excited about the placement of this one, especially, and this jam is absolutely breathtaking. You have this like ripping nice dual guitar churn action for a while. Is it a That's All jam?
It is.
Maybe.
If you like the Genesis, you're gonna love that jam.
Yeah, it was Genesis vibes all day.
I loved Peter just hammering into some of that grimy guitar work. In this initial peak section. Really again just taking their time with it because they haven't been able to in a lot of the plays of it this year. And then it cools down.
The way they settle. Oof.
Yeah, and one of the things that's so mind blowing to me is I mentioned earlier and we talked about it a lot recently. They've been doing a lot of really good like bliss jamming, quote unquote, or like in a major key, as opposed to doing a lot of evil exploration. And that's kind of been the theme of this tour so far. But at this point, we're 2 weeks into tour, and this does not feel like, oh, they're doing a bliss jam again. Because it's like they're finding new ways.
Or the typical jam that they would do.
Yeah. No, but
typical
they're finding a
jamming.
fresh way to look at it. Like this drip field is absolutely stunning. And I need to A/B it with 10-1-22 to see which one I prefer. But like I was floored last night, frankly, like during this part when they just got quiet and just I want to live in that space.
I said it felt like Peter kind of like rocking Rick, like he sort of was hitting like these notes that were like swelling up and down in different like octaves, I guess maybe, right, or something, just kind of like trading off and sort of just giving Rick the space to absolutely, like you said, soar in different ways. That it was like it doesn't have to be so like loud and triumphant, is like sort of some of those bliss jams that we had. This one felt, it almost like teeters in those like psychedelic bliss spaces that maybe they a little bit more just like out there. And Rick's guitar sounds great right now, so so it's like his rig sounds amazing.
I think it was during, I don't remember if it was this jam or earlier in the set, but I did want to shout out Jordan, the band's drum tech, for how incredible Cotter's snare sounds. I felt last night just like it struck me during the second set. I was like, that thing just sounds crystal clear. Like it has just the right amount of like kind of ring on it. But that was cutting right through for me. And so credit to Loomis for the front of house sound mixing, but also huge kudos to Jordan who built that snare, I think, while they were on the road in June. And it just it sounds so good out there. But Josh, what did you think of this Drip Field?
I mean, Drip Field is just a great song. It's I think you tweeted it's their best one.
Still their best song.
It's objectively Goose's best song.
Yeah, I'll give you it. I kind of think either Hunger Sight or I don't know, 726. But
also
definitely,
also
fair.
But
I mean, it's such a there was a moment where they played it so early that I was sort of like, is this gonna be a 40-minute Drip Field? Is this gonna be 3-song set? But no, it was really cool. Because I was with a couple of, I mean, I'm a neophyte, but I was with people who really just know
neophyte.
Nice. Yeah. I was happy that they got a Drip Field too, because it's just one of those. It's kind of like if
for the new fan to see, it's a great song.
Yeah, if you're introducing someone to this band, you just play that song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Born Hunger Drip, and then
exactly. You're gonna get those are just
3 songs on that record.
A banging set.
Yeah, and then we build up out of this jam, like it's already so good, and out of nowhere, I feel like very nice segue into Satellite, which it's been on a couple of set lists since they left So Ready without the jam. It's back. But I didn't hate the placement here. This is normally the part of So Ready that kind of I feel goes on a little too long, or isn't the most engaging part of the set. But this one was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. Great, energy boost right there.
It's huge. It's just a peak. It's a great peak. It's
now based on them going into Hollywood Nights after. Would I have preferred just going Drip at the Hollywood Nights?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
But this was still a lot of fun. I was very excited about the Hollywood Nights drop too, because
it's weird how he's saying like a segue. I felt like I felt like it did like just die down. Like the way they started out Hollywood Nights was kind of out of like thin air, more so than we've heard in a couple other versions, I'd say.
A lot of the time Hollywood is segueing.
Driving in. Whereas we kind of got that Tomorrow Never Knows. I thought it was maybe Tomorrow Never Knows for a second, the way with the way Cotter. But just another one that the crowd ate up.
Well, as you said, Josh, they're just doing covers from across the spectrum. You know, you have the Jim James cover, and then a couple of songs later, a Bob Seger cover. And just
it's just a banger. That one just hits.
A great song. Yeah,
it's
great.
Yeah. We find ourselves singing it in each other's ears during the show too, and then of course they play it.
Prior to like Goose covering it, it was on my radar. I knew this song existed, but like it wasn't like something that was like, oh man, Hollywood Nights, what a great song, But now I think my opinion's changed. It's killer. But so I didn't get a chance to talk about the drip. So I want to back us up.
Please.
Because like I think we've kind of talked about the drip and moved on. Like drip is a great song, and Ryan, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but this is one of the best standalone versions of Dripfield that exists. So I wanted to explicitly say that on this podcast. So
Ryan actually even said top 10 or 15 jam right now. He thinks of the.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's up there.
There's a segment at the end of this Dripfield at the very end, not the That's All Jam. That's All Jam was cool and unexpected, and it's not something typically that you get in Dripfield. But the section that comes at the end is some. I said it already. I used this word. It's incredibly sophisticated jamming for this band. Like, I don't know if it's like gonna grab you too much, but I mean, listen close. I mean, they're really absolutely, completely in tune with each other, and it just sounds fantastic, and I love it. So that's a piece that's gonna stay with me. Like, I think, like I said, like I don't know if it's like a really catchy jam, if that makes any sense, but it's like. Really well executed, and it's just going to stay with me. But the satellite that came after, I think, was just right. It just, some spice to the set that I think you otherwise needed. And then I love the way this whole set flows, right? Like it's just got energy all the way throughout. I was kind of expecting at some point like a 726 to throw up or go up.
Me too. I thought we were going to get it after Give It Time or something. Yeah.
But they were doing 0 cooldowns in this set. That's what makes me think this might get released. But in any case, no cooldowns. Like you're just going right into Hollywood Nights, just banger. Just everybody
right into it.
Whole place was singing it. People were loving it.
Josh,
there are several moments throughout this 3-night run where I think it was just the all-time best version of some of these songs. Like the Dripfield was amazing. I feel like I'm ripping on Butterrum too much, but
no,
Butterrum from night
that was stellar.
The Butterrum from night 1 was amazing, and
incredible.
It's sort of that's just the experience. Like if if there's a song that might not be on your like top 10 or top 20 or whatever, like you're there,
or one of your least liked songs.
Yeah,
for a lot of least
liked songs, they're gonna surprise you, and I think that's like kind of the magic of this band. Like you can kind of rediscover this discography in completely new ways each time.
Yeah. And I thought, Give It Time to end here. It's just
great.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. As we've said, it's, it works really well in the set closing slot, encore slot, just because of the emotional sort of, like you said, cathartic, like, right, this is a song, Josh, you talked about it. And to go back, these are some of his lyrics that are just stay in your head. We same thing, like just singing it to myself in the kitchen or something, but it does, it's a very, very catchy tune, and like even for being like slower, it's still got a lot of energy, Ryan, because when they pick it up, they get the solo section.
100%.
It's
him humming the solo is one of my favorite things still, or when they sing it, it's
it's the Lighters in the Sky song, it's the
it is a little bit.
Everyone's gonna be it's a pure kind of galvanizing way to close a show. Like
100%.
everyone feels
good way to say it.
And then the encore, the Zaltcadia.
Neil, did you have anything to say about Give It Time? Not really. You're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, muted myself. No, nothing that hasn't already been said, but I like the way you said that, Josh. Like it's like a galvanizing song.
Galvanizing was great. I've never heard that. Yeah, it was actually perfect.
Incredible. That's exactly right. Killer.
So Zaltcadia encore. I love this idea.
Woo.
You know, I
too.
wish, you know, they ended at around 9:53 again, I think. Like
Again, yeah.
a little short on the curfew. So
Should have just ended Arcadia.
well,
after.
do the end. Yeah, exactly. Go
Yeah.
back into Arcadia after the salt. But I love that was something they were planning on doing. Like, you know, that wasn't like they came out for the encore and they were like, let's do Zalt again. Like they came up with that idea before the show. It was on the written set list. You know, only deviation from the set list last night, I believe, was they cut Seekers in the first set.
Yeah, that's right. You said
great move. But yeah, this Zalt Cadia was an amazing idea. You know, I was wondering what was going on when Rick, you know, kind of turned around and then they modulated up a little bit and, you know, we're going forward in this jam. And I was wondering if he was just trying something different and they were going to launch back into Arcadia. But then I started hearing it and I'm like, oh my God, like Zalt's coming back. Not a reprise.
Nope.
No, it's not a reprise. This was cool. I mean, it was cool, but like you got less Arcadia, which like
sure.
Yeah.
This is not something I want to see a number of times, but I think it was really cool.
It was like a capping pair for the run too.
Sure.
Like Arcadia, right? And then we also to talk about the whole show, and we had said aside from Arcadia was also, what else was the older one, Ryan?
Satellite.
Satellite. Sorry. Yep. Satellite. So not even a song. No. But just like to come back to one of their oldest songs that's very popular, and Josh, you would say like that's what was catching maybe other fans pre-COVID even, or the song that sort of like someone would hear. They're still one of the most well-known songs, you know, I think. And so, and then pairing it right back with a brand new one.
Totally.
Yeah. What did you think of this ending here, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I love a set long sandwich. Like that's kind of been one of the more fun things about finally getting into this music, is to see the way that you can be playful with constructing a set list. I saw Umphreys for the first time a couple weeks ago, and they did the same thing with this song "All in Time," which I thought was really cool. But yeah, Arcadia is just is that usually an encore? Like it was kind
of
okay.
Set closer encore.
That's like always been like the Goose song, you know. It's like that's like the one.
Yeah I think it was. I heard it so many times when I started from 2018
exactly.
All kind of going less and less, and then but I think that song is just it's really good. My friend Jerry who's now
Jerry. Yeah,
you met him. He was like so happy to hear Arcadia at the end.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just a really, really excellent show. You said just how intentional they've been about the 3-night run. Like I think it's there's a, not in terms of like tone, but there's a kind of very fascinating flow that almost feels like a DJ set sometimes, where they kind of like know exactly how to kind of bring the energy up, pare it back down. Like everything felt right.
It was a movement of like the whole run. Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, the show definitely has an arc to it. If you zoom out a little bit on this show, and I might be saying something like pretty hasty, this is one of the best constructed shows they've played this year.
I think so. Yeah, set list wise, I agree.
If you're picking top shows and you're looking at the whole thing, it's not a thing that I do, but there are folks who do this. I think this is one of those shows that you have to look at and say, like, this might be kind of close to the best that Goose can do in 2024 in terms of a show. So, I mean, that's saying a lot, and I think that's really right. There's just everything kind of seemed to fit. The band has been saying that they love this venue, which I think is fascinating. You all were talking about the venue. I feel like I have to get out there now to go see this venue.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, everybody talks about that, and like one or two breaths later, they say, and like, I can't believe the show started at 6:30 and they end at 10, and nobody like harps on that one really awful detail because everything else about this place is so good.
I mean, honestly, I didn't think it was a bad. Like, I didn't think the early curfew and early show time was bad.
When I saw Umphreys, the doors opened at 3:30 p.m.
Well,
it was like,
when
it was like a Friday.
I'm
like, are you kidding me? So I missed the stolen gin. But yeah, it was, I have a day job. I work for PBS, and, driving back from the office back home and then getting to the show, it was, it was doable.
The only downside was, if you're driving there, you're driving in rush hour. But yeah,
don't
it was
drive,
awesome.
Bike or take the bus or call Uber. Yeah, I didn't mind the early curfew. Like, I saw you guys at the after show.
Well,
I
especially
bought tickets.
that we were going to the after show. I was very thankful that.
Yeah, you're like,
Right.
oh, it's over
Show
by
ends
now.
at
And it's
10,
also
like,
so
yeah.
nice that it's the after show actually started at 10:30.
Mhm.
It was like like normally I was like, this might be the worst decision I've ever made. Because it's like I've done so many of these like after parties at music festivals or whatever, and it's like you're just standing around awkwardly
Waiting.
like
Yeah.
1 a.m.
Yes.
Right.
But
I know that vibe. Yep.
yeah, but no, and then I went to a bar
Familiar.
after the after show, and it was like I got enough
Same.
sleep last night.
Yeah,
It was
we
fun.
went
Yeah.
to Kingston Mines. So
Oh wow,
it's-
yeah.
There we go. Well, hey, while we're talking about the after show, shout out to Becky, aka Riv Caruth, and Hot Like Mars for a
crushed
great,
it. Becky
Yeah.
great
crushed
after
it.
show.
So
last
did
night.
Hot Like Mars. Yeah.
Hot Like
Yeah.
Mars is going on tour, I believe.
Check them out.
Check 'em
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
If
Good
you,
kids.
If you like
really
to have a
good
good
kids.
time,
Yeah.
you should go see Hot Like Mars.
Should we talk about
anyway,
should we
yes.
talk about personal ranking of the 3-night run?
I would love to hear your.
Yeah, let's
personal
hear
ranking
your
of the
caps,
3-night run, Josh.
I'll go first. Okay.
Yeah, by
So
all
I've been
means.
thinking about this a
Well,
little
you're the
bit.
guest. We're putting you on the
yeah.
spot.
Cool. So I think I'm a night 2 guy.
Yeah.
I think the magic of the Julian Lodge sit-in was unbelievable, and I think the Factory Fiction kind of sealed the deal. I know I texted you after the show that I preferred night 1, and I think like night 1 from a set
That's
list
the beauty of a
perspective-
hasty rank.
Yeah,
It can always
from
change.
night 1 from the purposes of a set list, like I really wanted to get a SOS, and I got it. I
Mhm.
got an Echo of a Rose right after, and it was just my first time seeing the band, so there was sort of like
Yeah,
this
there's
kind
the
of
allure to
expectation
that.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was sort of like, okay, cool. This is like this is a band that kind of started as like I should learn what this is about because it's an interesting
A
music
project.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I like to give myself homework. And then it was like, oh man, I've been listening to so much Goose over the last few months, and now this show is finally happening. And I think there's just some sort of like sentimentality to that kind of has it high. But night 2 for me. Night 3 was kind of the most technically impressive show.
Yep. Same. Production wise, all of it. Yeah.
But it's sort of funny because like I'm realizing I am probably not the best guest to have on to talk about jams because I've always liked
You've been
these
great.
bands for songs. Like when I got into the Grateful Dead, I was like mostly a first set guy. Like
Yeah.
I like bands where like the jams are vessels for the songs, not the songs are vessels for the jams, which I know might be a controversial opinion in some corners here, which is fine. It's not what I was raised on. I think like the reason
They do it really well too.
They
These
do.
guys, like, yeah.
And I think like Rick and Peter and they have such a really good ear for kind of bringing the jams back to the melody, bringing like expanding the song in new and interesting ways, which I think is a very, very cool thing. It's not just like wonky. It's not just like noodling. It's really in service of the catalog, which I think is commendable.
That's a good, yeah. And some people have been saying too, like you don't need sometimes, I mean, Thursday night, yeah, maybe the jams, the songs, the performances of said songs, whereas you don't need to have, one of the favorite shows, 2020, right? Like, what was it? The Frederick show.
Yeah.
I think I said Frederick. I meant Legend Valley yesterday about the Pumped Up Kicks one. Yeah, but the Frederick show, it's just like, it's just the way they weave the set list, the whole construction of it, the performance of the show.
Really good at that. They're getting really good at that, as I mentioned earlier. Absolutely. I honestly, I think I'm with you, Josh, on night 2 being my favorite of the 3. Neil,
Same.
you gotta.
I can't do like it's so weird. I like them for different reasons. Like night 1, I think there's like some excellent jamming in there. Night 2, like some good jams in there, and like like if you're like looking at set list alone, like I really like night 3, but like I mean,
just on paper,
it's a tough one, man. I can't really rank them. I don't know what to say. I mean, you get like a Madavon encore. It's a killer show.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Well, we have been talking for an hour, which is awesome, and I love it. And thank you so much, Josh, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure getting to dive in. we emphasize obviously jam analysis a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
So kind of looking at the songier side of things has been a really
good to
cool
have you,
change of
man.
pace,
Yeah, it's been a
for us.
lot of fun. Thanks for inviting me on. I had a blast. See you next time we're in Chicago.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can't
We'll
wait.
definitely link up too, Josh, and go to a
Can't
show, and
wait.
maybe I'd love to, you know, see some other music that I maybe wouldn't, right? You went
Yeah.
same space and then just kind of cross over, be exposed to some bands or a band you like, you know, smaller indie group or something. I think it's important to get the crossover and see different new music.
Yeah. The indie to jam like
Pipeline.
crossover, it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
it's-
speaking of, Stephen Hayden is attending the show in Minneapolis tonight, and the
Mhm.
last 2 times that he's seen Goose in Minneapolis, there's been an interview involved. So I'm hoping that we get some content from him.
New words,
coming out soon. But the show is only a few hours away now, 4.5 to be exact. But they're in Minneapolis tonight. They're in Iowa tomorrow. You know, ready to be back on the couch, ready to get a good night's sleep tonight in preparation for getting out west, which I already am. But it is great. Tour continues. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern with fellow Ryan Legvold will be joining us, our good friend. But
they
we'll
went
be
up
back
to
recap.
they went up to Minnesota.
Oh yeah,
after
they went up to Minnesota.
Oh, from
Minnesota.
And then to North Dakota. Yeah, Minnesota.
Minnesota. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for tuning in today. Josh, thank you again so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We
Thanks,
will see you
Josh.
guys tomorrow. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the show tonight. Peace.